Audience for my speech, right? All right. So I'm going to be giving an informative speech about vaccinations. Recently, I've had an fairly unpleasant experience with adverse needle sticks and healthcare, which kind of interested me then more in vaccinations and how they occurred or why they're still used today. With that, I've also needed my own vaccines recently and some boosters. So other questions that kind of popped to mind or came to mind was more about how vaccines are created, why they're still used, how vaccinations seem to keep popping up all over the place for adults and children, and why there's so much controversy with vaccinations. And all of these seemed like pretty good questions, and I set out to answer them for myself and for others, with some history about how vaccinations were made and why they're still used presently today. So some of the history I found from the Stanford University, a study that they did, or just some information that they found about how vaccines were created and why, goes back to the first vaccine was made for smallpox. It was one of the most deadly diseases of its time and still today, killing thousands and thousands of people, ranging from small children to older adults. The term for vaccine was actually created from a Latin word for cow, because the smallpox vaccine was created with a vaccine for cowpox. The original doctor who created the inoculation was Edward Jenner, and he inoculated his first patient with cowpox because at different points throughout the disease, he had noticed or observed that although it was very widespread disease, milkmaids seemed to not be affected by it. So it turned out to be that the milkmaids actually had already were infected by the cowpox disease, so they, in a sense, were already immune to the smallpox disease since it was very similar. The cowpox virus, again, was similar enough that it was able to react with the body in such a way that it prevented the people from being able to actually get smallpox. So this inoculation soon became very popular and became the framework of how all vaccines were still made today. On to the present. So the administration of antigenetic material is still used to stimulate individuals' immune systems to prevent the disease from occurring, which basically means that the body is injected with material that causes antibodies to be created, thus being able to fight the disease that's currently then injected into the body. With that, vaccines are still used to prevent morbidity from infection and are one of the most effective ways of preventing infectious diseases. The World Health Organization reported that licensed vaccines are currently available to prevent or contribute to preventing at least 25 different infectious diseases, and new innovative techniques have been created or are driving new research, and recombinant DNA technology is one of the newest delivery techniques. So what happens is they'll take DNA from you or from a specific individual and create your very own vaccine for you with your own DNA. So it's more effective and more prevalent to the new technologies that we end up having in this current day. So disease targets have also expanded, and some vaccines are now being focused on non-infectious conditions, such as addiction and cancer, even up to just allergies. So there's some new technology that's out there that's kind of exciting to know about. Also, vaccines tend to have a lot of myths that follow them. Some myths including that the combination vaccine against diphtheria, tetanus, and pertussis can cause sudden infant death syndrome. Another is that giving a child more than one vaccine at a time can actually cause very harmful side effects or cause the child to become more sick than originally planned, I guess. Another thing, too, one of the most popular controversies is that vaccinations can cause autism. With that story, a little explanation. Andrew Wakefield was the first man to produce the study that caused this big controversy. He produced it in the Lancet in 1998, and it caused this big concern that MMR led to autism. Since the study was published, about 10 of the 13 authors have retracted their findings, and the Lancet actually retracted the whole study in paper, also citing Wakefield with ethical misconduct because the study was found to be seriously flawed and use a lot of miscommunication and misinvolved information. Unfortunately, because of this publication, a lot of panic has ensued, and there's been no evidence per the World Health Organization or the American Academy of Pediatrics that any of that myth is actually true. All in all, the world has come a long way from the first inoculation of cowpox to the 25 plus vaccines that we do have now that are widely available to the public. Individuals do still have their right for their pros and cons for each vaccine or for their beliefs about vaccines, and still many myths are out there, but many of them have been proven to not be true or accurate. The use of vaccinations will probably not go away in the near future or in the long future from now, because they're overall a beneficial part of the healthcare system that we do have here. And all in all, it's impressive how far that technology has allowed us to explore and advance, as well as how far the world has actually come in relation to healthcare, especially with vaccination and eradicating diseases.